Thank you both of you for giving up your time this afternoon. I said appreciate it's 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, and it is the day of the inauguration, which I've dragged you away from. So thank you very much for that, and thank you to Warner and just in general for coming along to talk to us this afternoon. Our graduates find these sessions really, really helpful. I mean, we've sort of run when we worked with students in the past, we've found that. So Sarah heads up early careers in the EMEA territories at Warner Media. After starting her career as an admin apprentice, sorry, what happened? There we go. As an admin apprentice almost 10 years ago, she has gained experience in both HR, generalist, and talent acquisition teams. She is passionate about diversity and is striving to help make the entertainment industry an inclusive place for all future talent. Leon is currently an intern with the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Team, working within brand and marketing. He works closely with other branches of the franchise, including comms and international marketing, as well as the global divisions, including consumer products and home entertainment. At the same time, Leon also studies as an undergraduate student at Loughborough University, studying politics, history, and international relations. Last but not least, Bert is a VP in branding and marketing. Diversity and inclusion are essential to him. As a member of the OUT community, he lends his voice to these values. Bert had his coming out over 40 years ago and hopes to be able to share some of the legacy and history of our community via OUT. So firstly, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's great to see your contributions and it's good to hear from you. So I suppose my first and most immediate question is just ask, we've heard your bios, but could you maybe just introduce yourself a bit more and tell us a bit about sort of what your roles include? If I come to you first, Sarah, if that's all right. That's all right.
So yeah, I'm Sarah, and I look after early careers for Warner Media. So that includes things like apprenticeships, internships, and it's across the EMEA territory. So that's, across Europe. It's also Middle East and Africa, but we don't actually have any early careers schemes there yet. But yeah, so that counts as our biggest schemes, which are in the UK, and then we also have schemes in France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. I don't know really what else to say. I don't know. We're just trying at the moment. We've had sort of the schemes have been running for the intern scheme in particular has been running for many years, and we're really trying this year to do more to advertise and attract people from different diverse groups. So whether that's the LGBT community, if it's people from different ethnic backgrounds, or people with varying levels of social mobility. That's kind of been my main goal this year, to make sure that we're getting out there and speaking to people who are from these different backgrounds, so that they know that they can apply for our jobs and they can succeed in our company as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Bert, take it away.
Yeah, I am actually a sort of a dinosaur of Warner. I've been through many reiterations of the company. I joined 23 years ago, if you can believe it, and I've been through Warner Brothers and AOL Time Warner and Warner Brothers again, and now Warner Media. I started as a publicity director in Germany for the theatrical division of Warner Brothers, and then I went through several jobs in the next years in Germany, from publicity to marketing, from marketing to integrated marketing, working not only at the cinema product anymore, but also moving into home entertainment, consumer products. And believe it or not, I was there when VHS went away and DVD came in. That was quite an interesting time, actually, because it gave us the opportunity to rebrand and re-promote our whole catalog. And then franchises became more and more important, and I looked after all of our franchises, not only the local ones, because they're big franchises in Germany, but also the international ones like Lord of the Rings, Friends, Lego, and of course Harry Potter. And through Harry Potter, I was asked about 3 years ago if I would like to come to London and join the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Group. And of course, I jumped at that opportunity because I love London and I love England. And so that's where I went. And that's what I'm doing now. Now I'm a VP of Brand and Marketing in the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Group. Easy to remember, very nice, easy title for a division. And as such, my main remit is to look after what we do with the international markets, obviously, because I am from an international market, and also the comms across all of our business units. And I'm a member of OUT in the UK, which is the LGBTQ plus network, and actually applied to become one of the 2 chairpersons. And since the beginning of this year, I am now one of the 2 chairpersons of OUT, which has been renamed PRISM. Not to confuse with prison, it's prism. So it's shiny and twinkling and not behind bars. And I think that's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you for the distinction there. And finally, we come to Leon. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I am the brand and marketing intern on the Harry Potter global franchise development team alongside BERT. I work with the team in the US in Burbank alongside my line manager Claire in London, looking at brand guidelines and working on the marketing for activations throughout the year, and also working alongside home end and consumer products. I'm also in OUT/PRISM with BERT, which has been extremely fun, and it's very interesting working in a lockdown, let's say, for the past 6 months.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I suppose then to just finally give us, I suppose, a little bit, the last bit of background, if I may come to you first, but I know you've touched on it a bit, but how did you get into your current career at Warner Media, and what was it that kind of like pushed you to apply or sort of, you know, come to this position?
Were you asking me now?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, okay, yes. Yes, no, it was actually something, I think for the people on this, who are listening to this panel, it might be interesting that it's always worthwhile, if you have a job, to think about what is the, you know, the thing of the future. And so I had a feeling about 5 years ago that franchises in the theatrical world were becoming more and more important, because everything had been franchised. You know, everything had a part 2, a part 3, a part 4. Everything became a television series or a comic book, or, you know, there were no one-offs anymore, or not many. And of course, the entertainment industry jumped on that trend, and Warner Brothers did too. And back in Germany, we developed actually one franchise from scratch by making a cinematic movie and then using characters from that, making an animated series and then making a kid's book out of it, and so on and so forth. And I thought, why don't we bring all the divisions together to just kind of elevate and escalate everything that has to do with franchises, because it feels like that's where we're going in this company. And so I did that, and it was kind of like the first time where somebody tried to have everybody in one room talk about one topic, in this case, the topic being the respective franchise. And funnily enough, around the same time in London, there was a group of people concentrating specifically on the Harry Potter franchise and trying to reinvent it, because the cycle of the films had been ended and the franchise was a little bit dormant. So they were looking at, how can we, you know, Harry Potter, this is really something big. We should do something and bring it back. And so they built this Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Group. And because they knew that I was doing something similar in Germany, not only for Harry Potter, but also for the other franchises, they started inviting me to their meetings and getting to know me. And then at some point they said, would you want to just concentrate on that and come over? And, you know, the morale of the story is, if you are not, you know, snowed under your daily tasks and have the time to think about what could be the next big thing, that'll always help.
Excellent, thank you. That's fantastic. And I suppose, sort of sticking with Harry Potter, Leon, sort of, I mean, you're an undergraduate at the moment. What's this kind of journey been for you?
It's been very different. I think I first got into marketing at university when my friend was creating a small business under the union to basically help students shop sustainably. So that was my first input into marketing. And then through that, I became quite passionate about it and helped marketing of small businesses within Loughborough. And then when it came around to looking for a placement opportunity, I was very lucky to see that Warner Brothers were hiring for Harry Potter. not only being a planner myself, but also enjoying marketing. Of course, I was going to put myself through for it. Was lucky enough to get the position, and it's been amazing for the past 6 months. So that's me.
Am I correct to understand then? So this is a position you've picked up during lockdown then, as a?
Yeah. So I started at the end of June last year. Sorry, keep forgetting it's January. And yeah, I got the job last March, and then started working in June, which has been amazing.
Wow, yes, the just as sort of lockdown was coming, that's fantastic. Thank you. And finally, sort of Sarah, what's your sort of journey been?
So I worked in a very different industry before. I worked in local government, and I did sort of general HR, but I looked after recruitment for apprentices and early careers there. I saw the job it was Warner Brothers at the time, and obviously jumped at the chance to apply because of the brand. And I knew people that worked there and said it was amazing, it's a good place to work and things like that. So that's why I wanted to apply. I started kind of just generally being a bit more of a recruiter who did kind of early career stuff on the side, just because it was something I was interested in. And then my role turned in March. My role became solely looking after that, because that was the area I was most interested in. And we were kind of changing and rebranding as Warner Media. So rather than just looking after Warner Brothers, I now look after all the brands that sit underneath.
Excellent, thank you. I suppose I'll come straight back to you then, Sarah. This probably will only be a question for Sarah and Bart, unfortunately, Leon. But just sort of inquiring, how has your sort of work life and your office life sort of changed since the pandemic? Sort of working from home. How has that impacted your work?
Well, I mean, I live in Reading rather than London, so I commute for around 3 hours a day. So that's definitely been a massive improvement to my day. So I don't have that anymore, although I watch a lot less Netflix now. And I'd say it's harder because you can't see, your colleagues. You can't just, if you had an annoying email, you can't just turn around to them and vent, because kind of putting it into words in an email makes it a bit more official. You don't want to do that. And it's the same with, you have those days where you just think, oh, can I ask you a really stupid question? I don't know if you know the answer, but you don't get the opportunity to have those conversations as much. But I'd say in terms of kind of work-life balance and things like that, I do enjoy the working from home. And I think, when post-pandemic, if that's a thing, I would like to have a bit more of a mix. But yeah, I think I do miss the office. I miss the social side, and I miss just being able to sound ideas off with my colleagues and stuff. But you do still get to do that. We have sort of regular Teams meetings. I have like a catch up with my team every week, and then various catch ups with individual people as well. So in a way, I kind of speak to people more, but also less, because it's the dynamics of the conversations that have changed a little bit.
Excellent, thank you for that. And Bert, sort of what for you has that been, that kind of transition? Sort of, is it much more difficult sort of with working from home, or what are you sort of finding with that?
Now, I would echo what Sarah said. It's really it's taking away something if you don't have that personal contact with people, and the quick throwaway conversations that you can have if you're all working in the same space. But I also agree that you suddenly see much more of the people, because you have all these Zoom and Teams meetings, and I feel at the same time more distanced from them, but also closer, because it's just, you're not in the same space, but still you're in their homes, like you're in my home now, and you see them, you see the faces very close on your screen every day. So it's different, it's interesting, but I also can't wait to get back. And of course, work-wise, it is a different situation to lead a team, and I'm a team leader, so I have to look after my people and see that they are happy, and that they are still able to communicate in a way that is good for the organization and good for them. And so it was kind of my job to look at a cadence of meetings and how to put them in, and work at that with the team. And that's what we did when the pandemic started and the lockdown started. And what was new at that time, and interesting, Leon can say something about that as well, because the interns have been instrumental in helping with that. We also try to find some spaces that are not just job centric, where we can meet and meet socially and, you know, just talk about things that maybe don't have to do anything with the job. And that was, I think, quite successful. People liked that until it became a bit much, because then suddenly every business unit and every division and everybody caught onto that idea, and then there were too many meet and greets, and we just, you know. But generally, I think it's great. What I really missed in our LGBTQ plus group out of Prism is that we can't do events in a physical space anymore. We had a very nice film club going, and those film club evenings were really nice. We had a drink, and there were, you know, people meeting in the foyer and having conversations, and then you would go in and watch the film together. And we've tried a few times now to do this digitally, and it's unfortunately just not the same. I mean, even if you watch the film together and if you have the chat on and everybody's, you know, somehow connecting with each other, but it's different. And we've now put it on ice, and we want to do another film club screening when we can go back to our screening rooms.
So only so many Zoom quizzes you can do before you start to think, maybe. Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose, Leon, I suppose sort of build on that. What's kind of your been experience then coming into it during the pandemic and sort of having to get to grips like that?
It's been very different. I thought I would be in the office by now, but it's been very interesting. I think, unfortunately, I did miss out on the day-to-day of learning how an office works, but it's been amazing to actually still be able to build relationships with people, even if it's virtually. I think, and Bert can say as well, our team are really good at chatting and always being there for each other. So it's been a really nice dynamic. I think as well, my line manager has been really helpful to help me get to grips with things, and everyone's always there for helping hand. So it's a really good company to go into in a situation like this, I think. But it has been difficult sometimes, to say the least, just getting to grips with some stuff. But overall, it's been an amazing experience.
I'm very, very sad for everybody who started a new job during the pandemic and, you know, moved out of their parents' home, was ready to start life, you know, go out, meet friends, go to discotheques, be in a big city, enjoy all the culture, learn about life in offices, and then they have to do it all from home. I mean, and this is a time that you can never repeat. So I'm just so devastated by that. Totally on before, but it's really, we're trying to make the best of it, but it's not good for people who just moved out of their parents.
Can absolutely echo that. No, definitely. So it is one of those things, so, you know, on the very turn and how sort of turn things, but with any luck, summer we're getting to now. I might, if I can come back to you quickly, sort of, I just kind of want to maybe push on the LGBT network a little bit further. I know I said you're sort of co-chairing it now. Did I hear correctly? And so I just sort of wondered, what does that look like from your perspective? How does the LGBT network Prism work at sort of Warner Media rather?
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. It is now working across Warner Media. It used to be UK centric, and we are now working closer with the US, and the whole company at the moment has some structural changes. So what we're trying to do in the future is to kind of reflect the great things that the BRGs are doing in the US, in the UK as well, while at the same time keeping our own British identity. Strange for me as a German to say that, but, you know, keep the British identity of the group and do things that are specific to the UK as well. But I think I have great hopes for the future, because with the new leadership that has come in the BRGs, all of them, not only Prism, have been really put in the foreground and have had a great forum. And so I think that we will see a lot of things that will happen, and a lot of activations, and And things like this, for example, I mean, we didn't have the cooperation with my G-Work before. And I guess that's what I want to be there to facilitate, so that we can really use all these opportunities and make the best for everybody who works at Warner Media in London or in the UK to use that. And then my great hope is that at some point we can make this a more European venture and have, you know, groups everywhere that we can have exchanges with and make things resonate in a bigger way, very much like we do with Harry Potter, you know, where all the territories work together and there might be one brilliant idea that is then actually activated on in China at the same time as in Ireland, you know.
It's fantastic, thank you. And I suppose to come to you then, sort of, Lee, because I mean, you have joined the company, you know, partway through the pandemic, you're working from home, and you still managed to sort of get yourself involved in the LGBT network. What's your journey been from sort of joining to that, if I may ask?
It's been amazing. It's well, the first career I've had where I've been fully out, so it's been nice to have everyone being really supportive and having a really nice network of people around me. It's also been amazing just to speak to people like Bert and other people in our team in the company who are out and working in a corporate job and their experiences in that. And I think within Warner Media, it seems all to be very positive, which is always nice to hear. But it's been really good, yeah. We've had some talks of maybe doing a reading group, and obviously, as Bert said, we don't have the film showings anymore, which is a bit sad. But overall, it's been nice to hear stories and network with more people who are LGBT.
Excellent, thank you. If I may just ask, so you mentioned this is the first sort of job you've been in where you've sort of been open in the workplace. Is that necessarily because of sort of the support going with, or what, you know, what's kind of spurred, if I may ask, of course, it's perfectly respected, not always necessarily a fun conversation to have.
No worries. I think this is my first corporate job. I've worked in retail before and like other small jobs, but I think in other companies that I know of or I've worked in, there's not really that backing for you to be out and proud, whereas it's definitely there in Warner Media and it resonates throughout the company. Whereas I don't think I would have had that support in other companies that I've worked for in the past, especially being from Northern Ireland and stuff. We are a bit behind sometimes, but yeah, it's great in Warner Media, definitely.
Excellent, thank you. Before we quickly go over to our student opportunities and undergraduate opportunities, I just want to come back to with you just to ask about your day-to-day, what kind of your job involves at the moment. So Sarah, perhaps if you just an overlook of what it is to work in HR at Warner Media.
Yeah, so I guess at the moment we are just starting our busy recruitment period for our next year's, well, this year's cohort. So normally we would have started that in October, but just because there was going on, it's been a little bit delayed this year. So we've kind of condensed all our work into a couple of months, which is just going to be really busy, but hopefully quite fun. At the moment, I am meeting families to find out, you know, what kind of intern they're looking for, and to talk about what the process is going to be like for their recruitment.
Sorry, Sarah. Just my apologies. I've just had a couple of minutes to share. You've come across a little bit. Your microphone's a bit roboty. Is perhaps the word? Oh. Yeah, I think that works too. In the meantime, Bert. Oh. Bert, if you'd like to take over.
Yeah, no worries. That was like Sarah was talking to us from very deep under the sea. It could be nice. We've all seen Ariel, but anyway, so my day-to-day is basically something else every day. You never know what's coming because I do look after all the international markets, and they all have different agendas, different ideas. And just to give you one example of what I did this morning, I talked to the Chinese team about an idea that they have for their New Year's celebrations that are coming up. in 2 weeks. They are looking at having a very traditional Chinese New Year's gift sort of envelope with greetings and goodies in it, branded with our Harry Potter brand for the first time ever. So that would be, of course, amazing to get into the most important holiday in China with the brand. And then we are talking to the German team, who are just discovering that they could have a franchise channel on TikTok in Germany, and what should they put on there, and how do they have to speak to legal, and so on and so forth, territory by territory. And then with my other foot, I'm in the comms management of the day-to-day. So we're every day looking at what's happened comms-wise across the wizarding world. Some of the bigger beats that you might have seen over the last weeks was that our console game has been moved by a year because we just want to make it perfect. That Johnny Depp has been taken out of the 3rd installment of Fantastic Beasts and been replaced by Mads Mikkelsen, and stuff like that. We're just keeping track of that and making sure that the different divisions, who all have something to tell to the press when they bring out a new product or have an information that they want to be across, that they are kind of organized in a way that they all tell a story that makes sense and not shouting above each other. So it's kind of a juggling, or if you want to call it conducting job that we do with communications. And that's basically the day-to-day. And then, of course, as I said before, when I talked about thinking about the future and the next big thing which might come up, that is whenever I have time, I try to take it and think about what could be important in 6 months' time, and what should we think about now already. Sorry if that was a bit long.
No, that's perfectly all right. Thank you very much. It's a fantastic insight. I'm going to come back to Sarah. Let's see what it does this time.
Hopefully it works. Is that okay?
Yes, we're good. Fantastic. We're in the clear. Take it away, Sarah.
I don't know. I can't even remember where I was. I think so. With recruiting, we'll over the next few months be sifting through applications for the undergrad scheme, and then putting people through to the next stage. And then once we've done that, we'll start the graduate process as well. So yeah, it's busy. The rest of the year, though, towards sort of like the autumn time, things like that, we just attend a lot of careers fairs. This year, obviously, was virtual. But the virtual element meant that we could attend, I think we attended 20 different careers events in 5 weeks. So the fact that we didn't have to travel up and down the country to get to everything meant that, we had a lot more flexibility and freedom. So yeah, my team of 2 is very, very busy, but it's really fun. And I really enjoy, being able to speak to students and things like that. And the vast amount of people that I get to meet in my job is just great. I love it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And finally, Leon, sort of, from the sort of undergraduate and the intern side, what does that look like for you?
It's been quite an interesting few days. We've been brainstorming a lot of ideas for 2022 and 2023 for different activations and tentpole moments. Looking at social media and especially looking at TikTok for different activations as well, which has been fun. I've been giving a lot of feedback to our different divisions, such as consumer products, home ent, themed ent, which is the universal theme parks in the States, and the studio tours in London and platform 93 quarter shop at King's Cross, which has been interesting. And yeah, been working on brand guidelines over the past few days, updating them all the time, which is fun. And yeah, I think that's everything pretty much over the past few days that I've been working on.
And just, I suppose, out of curiosity, because it's often something you hear about, particularly undergraduate positions and sort of internships, about the level of involvement. Do you feel particularly, I appreciate you've got colleagues here, but it's only a case that you feel quite, involved. As said, Bert has kind of sort of painted this picture of sort of the real level of involvement, but I just wondered how you sort of felt about that.
No, I completely get what you mean. I think going into any internship replacement, you're always worried that you'll just be the coffee boy and running around getting everyone teas and coffees, but I've definitely been heavily involved over the past 6 months it's been quite busy and it's been amazing. I've gained so much already, and I know over the next 6 months I'm going to get so much more out of it as well. So definitely keeping busy. Sorry.
Excellent, thank you very much. So
if I may speak to this, but I can only speak for my group, but definitely in the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Group, we are really taking interns very seriously, and we want to give them a really good experience, a lot of learning, so they're exposed to basically everything, and they can pick and choose. And I've had the experience that most of the time there is so much interest and hunger for information and for collaboration in the interns that it's always great if you give them the opportunity to be more involved. They will be more involved, is my experience. I've never had an intern who said, oh, you know, this is really too much, but it always comes back, wow, this is really interesting. How can I be part of that? And Leon and our other interns at the moment are the same. So it's, I guess, I mean, Sarah, probably it's something that it goes for all of Warner Media, and we are just reflecting the company here, right?
Yeah, I think we, you know, across the whole company, the interns they're such a vital role in the teams, and the managers of interns and the teams that the interns work in are really, really focused on kind of making sure that they are exposed to as much as possible. You know, we really pride ourselves in our placement program being really, really valuable for your future career.
Excellent, thank you very much. If I can just stick with you, Sarah. So now I suppose to kind of turn the webinar's focus on the student and graduate opportunities. If we come to the graduate opportunities first, are there any particular graduate schemes at Warner Media? What does it look like for someone fresh out of university? You know, what exists for them?
So we traditionally always had an undergraduate intern scheme, and this year we've kind of split it, because at careers fairs I was hearing from lots of people that maybe the course they studied at uni didn't allow them to do placements, or perhaps they didn't, you know, they couldn't afford to do a placement, they didn't want to get into another year of debt and things like that. So we've looked at how we can really offer things, or offer an opportunity so that we can, you know, benefit more people, I suppose. So we've split it this year. Just over half are still undergraduate placements, but maybe like 2/3 are undergraduate placements and 1/3 are going to be graduate placements. This is the first year we're doing it. It's a year-long opportunity for, you know, recent graduates. So you could have graduated within the last few years, and we'll have them in areas such as publicity. We've got some finance ones. We will have there'll be mostly marketing roles. That's just because that's what most of our roles are. As we're not kind of US, we tend to have, you know, a lot of our business is focused on around marketing and things like that. There'll be roles in consumer products, in data analytics and things like that. So there's a real sort of broad range of the different roles that we'll be offering. The salary, because it's a graduate role, will be 26,000 for the year. And the hope is that because, you know, people are, or these managers are choosing to have a graduate rather than an undergraduate, that it kind of helps them to pipeline as well. So, you know, towards the end of your graduate placement, it may be during your graduate placement, things in the team might come up that you can apply for, or, you know, a natural progression opportunity might come in. So yeah, we're hoping that it will mean kind of permanent jobs for people at the end as well. Obviously we can't guarantee anything, but it's an opportunity to sort of get your foot in the door and then hopefully kind of continue your career with us after that.
Fantastic, thank you. And so what is the process for getting to that sort of internship scheme? What can students expect to sort of come up against on that route?
So we'll be advertising from kind of late February, early March time. The date hasn't been confirmed yet, but we will advertise all the roles on our MyGWEC profile. They will, the process, I guess, to apply, there'll be set questions. So we won't really ask for CVs or anything like that. You can attach it if you want, but it's not a compulsory thing for you to put in. You'll be able to basically, you'll be trying to sell yourself based on some questions that we'll ask. So the manager of the role will pick out of a list of questions which ones they think are most relevant to their role. So it could be you know, if it's a role to do with data or finance, there might be some questions about Excel. There might be questions about your team working skills. There might be questions about, you know, tell us about a marketing campaign that you've seen recently that's sort of struck a chord with you, or something like that. You'll have those questions to answer, and then the next stage of the process, then, if you get through, would be a video interview. So it's called video interview on demand, which means that you'll set the questions and you're given some time to prepare, and then you upload yourself answering it. And then after that, we'll hold, I assume, a virtual assessment centre, because I'm not sure if we'll be, I don't know if we'll be in person by then or not, but probably virtual assessment centres are going to be the way forward this year.
Excellent. I've just so we've just had a question in the chat asking where we able to find these graduate roles. Am I correct? You said they'll be over on your My GWORK profile, our website. Am I correct on that? Were they also available on your website?
So we have a separate website for our early careers opportunities, which is warnermediaearlycareers.com. If you go on there at the moment, you'll see all of our undergraduate opportunities, and then from late next month or early March, you'll see all the graduate ones on there as well.
Excellent, thank you very much. And to our attendees, at the end of this session, you will be given a follow-up email with a link to some of the graduate roles and to Warner Media's My GWORK page if you want to find out more. So do look forward to that afterwards. As I suppose, so you mentioned the assessment centre. What is the process at the assessment centre, if I may ask? Is that sort of a standard assessment centre? What does that look like?
We are still kind of ironing out how we're going to run them virtually, just because I mean, it's only within the last few weeks I've kind of had the realization that it's probably going to have to be virtual, as much as I wanted them to be in person. But we normally will have like an icebreaker to start. There'll be some kind of activity where you're put into breakout rooms so that you work as a team to produce something. Maybe it's a presentation or something like that. There may be, depending on the role, if it's sort of like a finance role, there might be an Excel test. And then there would be a series of kind of speed interviews. So it would be one-on-one Teams calls, and you'd maybe have like 10 minutes with a manager and then 10 minutes with the current intern, and it kind of rotate that way.
Fantastic. If I may just quickly come to Leon and maybe just ask a little bit, because of course you've been through all this. I sort of wonder what was your experience with the whole application process, the assessment centres?
The application process was really good, actually. It was quite different to other placements I applied to. Like Sarah said, we answered, I think it was 5 questions when applying, and you can either attach your CV or not. When we got through to the assessment centre, it was really fun. It was really nice to have an icebreaker with the current intern, Jack, and then have a talk with the current line managers and hear more about the role. And we were divided into groups and given a task for an hour to create a marketing plan for one of our tentpole movements called Magical Mischief. And then we would then have to present that after the hour. And then after that, we went into interviews, which was very interesting. So I was quite lucky. I got to do the assessment centre in a normal world last February, just before the COVID pandemic hit.
Excellent, thank you very much. So Sarah, from that kind of assessment perspective, of course, as you know, we sort of gathered the idea of the presentations and the group work. What, from your perspective, is going to make that standout applicant? What's really going to make someone shine?
I would say, obviously, be yourself. Don't be anyone else, because then, you might end up in a situation where you've been put in a job that's not actually right for you, or you're not comfortable in the team and things like that. So I know that's not necessarily how to stand out, but always be yourself. I think that's like first and foremost the thing that you should do when you're attending an assessment centre or an interview or anything like that. But how I would say to stand out is when you're being asked questions, try to think outside the box. Try not to put the same answer that everyone else might put. So for example, we often ask a question in our application forms which will say, if you could be a Warner Brothers character, which would you be and why? And you would not believe how many hundreds of answers you get of Harry Potter, Hermione, Wonder Woman. Like it's the ones that it's a really obvious choice because it's a really great character, and why wouldn't you want to pick that? But when you see hundreds and hundreds of applications that say that, none of them are going to, unless they put a really outlandish reason for it, that answer isn't going to stand out. So I would say try and think of an underdog, or try and think of someone that is just a little bit different. who maybe only the real fans would know about, that kind of thing, is going to really make it stand out to, say, me, who's going to be reading hundreds and hundreds of the applications. And also just things like mentioning that, you know, if you're going to apply off the back of, you know, coming to this event, mention that. Say, oh, I was really impressed. You know, I heard Bert say this answer to a question when I watched the MyG Work Student Bite session. And that, if I'm reading that, I'm going to be like, oh, that's so cool. They were there. I was there. And I'll remember that way. So it's just trying to think of different ways to make your answer stand out in a way that not everyone's going to have that experience, or not everyone is going to be able to say that particular thing.
Excellent, thank you. If I can quickly come back to you again, Leon, again, just sort of sticking around with this idea of the applications. I just kind of wondered if there was anything you'd wish you'd known going into it, or any advice you'd give yourself now looking back sort of a year later.
That's tricky. That's a tricky question. I think just don't be so nervous. I remember on the applying and the assessment center, I was so nervous. But it's a really nice process, and everyone does make you feel really comfortable along the way. There's nothing scary. No one's going to force you to do an awful exam or an awful test. It's all pretty basic stuff. But like Sarah said, if you go in and just be yourself and give it your all, it's the best you can do. And yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I suppose now we're going to come to sort of the last question before we go to some of our Q&A questions. So to our attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat, in the Q&A box, and we'll come around to those in a moment. But whilst we wait for some of those, my final question is to all of you, on what particular advice you'd give to our attendees coming away from this, going into the job market, you know, this time, and what kind of advice you'd give them. So if I come to you first, Bert.
Sorry, I was on mute. I would like to actually echo what Sarah said, because I feel that is something that over a long time of my career has always helped me. Just be yourself. If you're not yourself in your job, then you're not yourself in your life, and then you'll be unhappy. Just one anecdote maybe to share, like 23 years ago when I applied for my first job at Warner Brothers, I was making sure, although my heart was racing, that I was really out in my interview, because I wanted to be out in this job, and I wanted to be able to be myself, and I wanted to see if in this interview they react strangely to me referring to my boyfriend, then this is not the job for me, not the life I want to lead. So not only in aspects of LGBTQ+, but everything that makes you, you. Be that, and bring that to the workplace, and then it will be good for you, and it will be good for the company, because if the people that work at the company are fulfilled and happy, then they do better work.
Excellent, thank you. Leon, your advice?
I would echo what Bert said. Alongside, when I was applying for placements, I got rejected by many different companies, so I wouldn't let one or two rejections put you off your stride, because at the end of the day, it happens to the best of us, and you'll definitely get something out of it. Just try and push past that the best you can, and you'll definitely get somewhere in the end.
Thank you. And finally, Sarah, your advice?
Yeah, kind of similar to what Leon said. It is really, really difficult times at the moment. Things are competitive. You know, a lot of people are finding that they don't have a job at the moment. So getting a job is a little bit harder than it was before. Don't be so hard on yourself if you're not getting things. You know, if you've been rejected a few times, you know, not everyone can get every job that they apply for. Just really try and stick at it and keep applying for things. And, you know, you will get there eventually. And it is, I think it's just the kind of mental, try and be positive about it, take it as an experience, try and think, oh, okay, I had an interview, I didn't get it, but what did I learn from that interview? You know, what feedback have I been given? What can I take away from that? And yeah, I think I speak to people at the moment who are really struggling to find jobs, and I can totally understand how stressful and, you know, how just kind of horrible that must feel, but it's not going to be forever. You know, things will pick back up. And yeah, I think you've just got to be kind to yourself about it, and just just be nice to yourself. I think that's the main thing that I think people should be doing.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we're going to take some questions from now. We're going to open up with one of our audience asks, do you offer any opportunities for level 3/A level students? Sarah, I think you might be best placed to answer that.
Yeah, so we have probably once you've finished your A levels, we have an apprentice program. So that we will be hiring for from around May time. We at the moment have been using a provider called White Hat to advertise our roles. So it might be worth just signing up with them nearer the time. But if you want to add me on LinkedIn, I always post whenever we go live with our roles. So if you are interested and university isn't the path that you want to go on, we do have a really big apprentice cohort every year, and it's a really, really good scheme as well.
Excellent. Just before I forget, because I don't think we've mentioned it, what is the deadline for these internships? What are they, year-round, rolling month? So what is that?
So the undergraduate cut-off date is the 7th of February, which is a Sunday, and then the graduate deadline hasn't been decided yet, but it's likely to be the end of March. And then the apprentice deadline will be the end of May.
Excellent, thank you very much. Let's take another one. I suppose this one might be a good one for Bert or even Leon. So how easily can you change brand/franchise? I know you sort of mentioned, Bert, this you relocated from Germany, and how is that an option, or what does that look like?
Yeah. If I understand the question correctly, it's like, can you move from working on, let's say, the Wizarding World and Harry Potter into the DC universe? You can't if you work in a franchise role, because the Wizarding World is the only organization at the moment that has that franchise organization. But it might change in the future. And also, if you, let's say you work for consumer products and you look after Harry Potter, then you can always speak to your managers and say, I think it's also interesting to work on DC or Lego or animation. And that shouldn't be an issue, because everybody is always looking for exchange, and ideas to be spread. But at the moment, if you were in the Harry Potter, in the group that I'm a VP of, you wouldn't be able to work on other franchises, I'm afraid.
And out of curiosity, just from, I suppose, to take that question a little further on sort of relocation, it said, so you relocated from Germany. What did that look like? Was there a level of support from the company in that, and what did that sort of look like?
Yes, there was actually a great great level of support from the company. Although I changed my job completely, I was the head of marketing for Germany, and then I became a VP of brand marketing here in the UK. So that meant cancelling my German contract and entering a UK contract. But with all the logistics, I felt very much helped by the UK HR team that looked after me moving and me understanding what needs to be done to, be a permanent resident of the UK. And they even helped me find a flat. And while we were looking for it, put me up in a flat for 6 weeks that they gave me that was close to the office. So yes, I had a very good experience with that. And I think that as far as I understand the objectives and goals of HR, that mobility inside the company is one of the big objectives that they have. Is that right, Sarah? I think I've heard that again and again. And I've been, singled out as an example for somebody who's done that by other HR executives.
I don't know, was there anything you had to add to that, Sarah? No worries.
No, that's fine. Thanks for question.
We'll come to our next question, which asks, how do you think you can stand out in an interview over a video call in this climate? I suppose, Sarah, you're probably the best person to ask on this.
It's trickier by that point. I think if you're, if you've been invited to have an interview, chances are you already have stood out. You would have already, made it through the first stage. You would have been sifted. So there's something about your application that the recruiter or the hiring manager likes. So at that point, I'd say really you need to just be yourself. I'd say, you know, maybe it's kind of the opposite of standing out, but one thing I'd say is, you know, if you've got a video interview, make sure your background is clear. Make sure, you know, if, you know, a lot of people do have video interviews from their bedroom, especially if you're a student. So tidy your room, you know, make sure the bed's made and things like that, because people will notice it and they'll pick up on things like that. But yeah, I think at that stage, it's less about standing out and more just about selling yourself and making them realize that you're the best person for the job. So read through the job description, you know, have a look at what the requirements are, what they're looking for, come up with examples of why you meet all of those things. And yeah, try as hard as you can not to be too nervous. I know that's very much easier said than done, but you know, have a glass of water with you, take lots of deep breaths. If you start to feel like you're getting really nervous, just breathe slowly and count to 10. But yeah, I think by the point you get to an interview, it's more just about interview techniques and things like that that's going to help you to stand out.
Excellent, thank you. And I just wondered, Leon, if there's anything you wanted to add to that, anything that you thought worked particularly well in your interview at all, or maybe not, you just, you know, don't know how you feel about it.
No, I would echo everything Sarah said. I think as well, coming prepared with questions to ask your interviewer is always good, whether it be about your role, how they've got to where they are, or just a generic question. In my interview, I asked my line manager and the other line manager if they could be anyone in the Wizarding World character-wise, who would they be and why? Just because I was interested and I'm a fan as well, so it's always fun to show that in the interview.
Excellent, thank you. And at the time, I think we'll take our last question from the chat, which asks, do the majority of the roles come with training and learning from the beginning, or is there an expected level of pre-existing knowledge for most? Sarah, I suppose you might be port of call for this.
Yeah, so we don't expect you to have, you know, any knowledge really. That's why you're coming to do an internship with us. If you have extra knowledge, then that's a bonus, and you know, it's obviously going to help you. But we don't expect, you know, if you come and came to work in my team in talent acquisition, we don't expect that you've already been a recruiter or anything like that in the past. What we really want to see is that you're passionate. You know, you've got an interest in the area. So whether that's in the, you know, in film releases, in Harry Potter or something like that. And yeah, I think it's less about the previous experience and more just about showing that you have, you know, the skills that are going to help you do the job, and then the passion and the kind of drive that's going to make you, you know, want to work really hard when you come and work with us.
Excellent, thank you very much. And so now that I'm conscious of time and that we are eating into everyone's evenings, I think I'm going to bring this over to a close. I'd like to say a big thank you to Bert, Leon and Sarah for joining us this afternoon, and a big thank you to Warner Media for coming to agree to come and see us at the Student Bites this afternoon. As said, you can find everything about Warner Media over on their My G Work page. You can find myself and some of our panelists over on My G Work. Do, you know, connect with us afterwards if you've got any other questions. Thank you very much for coming. Student Bites will be back on the 3rd of February. So please do check out the events tab on My G Work, and any of the links and opportunities talked about today will be emailed to you afterwards. I've been George Wright. The team joining me this evening has been Warner Media. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye.